sorry, John. I just want to announce the next program next month. We have a very special presenter, my daughter, Aurora Kuzek, who has spent the last 2 years living and working with birds in remote places. She will discuss her conservation work and what it's like to live in relative isolation on the islands that she's worked in. So anyway, that's next month, October 8th. And then check the latest issue of the Genesean for the entire list of the Outside Voices presentations for the year. So, tonight we welcome John Frame. John is a lifelong cycling enthusiast and manages the bike shop at REI. He will speak on land use and legacy, dispelling the myths of shared use trails, and how we are all on the same page when it comes to protecting our parks, sustainability, and the safety of both hikers and bikers. Please welcome John.
I'm talking into the microphone. Can everyone hear me pretty well? Okay, cool. We all represent a lot of different venues of enjoying the outdoors. I'm going to pick one person to remember. Who's into waterway stuff? Who's going to be a lead? Somebody raise a hand. Who likes boats? I know you do. What is one of your favorite things about being on the water? Doesn't matter what it is. It's peaceful, okay. Have you ever observed anyone on the water not being peaceful? Right. So, we've got that. Now, who's been hiking? Everyone, right? Who's visited a peak and found garbage at the top of it? Okay, so that's pretty unanimous, right? Who's cleaned up that garbage? Right, now that's what I like to hear. That's good stuff. Who's been out bird watching? Okay. What's an annoying thing that you experience if you're out bird watching? This one I'm not familiar about, so name something that bothers you if you're out and about. Ooh, people playing music. Now, I think that bothers everybody, to be honest, if you're out in the woods. Okay, so we've got music. We've got music as well. I think I've heard people playing music while out on boats. That's certainly a popular area thing. We've got trash on mountaintops, and essentially, I'll speak for my division, we have people who go when you shouldn't in the weather. But I think everybody here does that to some extent as well. There's a lot of people who want to get outside and they want to enjoy the environment. But there are times when it's not appropriate to do so, and there are methods where it's not appropriate to do so. The elephant in the room here is I think the mountain bike crowd gets a bad rap because I think everybody enjoys to kind of pick on that crowd. But I would say that the reality is that most mountain bike people, at least the ones I associate with, are also picking up trash, also share multiple disciplines, waterways, hiking, and other sorts of things. So, what we have a little bit of a challenge with is when we get to shared use trails, people have all these negative opinions immediately. But I'd like to know why, and I'd like anybody in this audience to come and grab a chair with me and tell me about their most negative experience so we can learn a little bit more about what it is that is bugging people about shared use, because we love the concept of sharing trails with everybody, and we enjoy the outdoors as much as anyone else. So, there's no stigma against hiking, there's no stigma against bird watching, there's no stigma against really anything. But the bikes aren't treated the same way. How many people here ride a bike in any capacity? Wow. So okay, that's helpful. So why do you guys ride bikes? Anybody can grab that. It's the same sort of answers. It's peaceful, it's good exercise, you get out, you can see things. Does anyone mountain bike at all? All right, still more than I expected. Where do you like to mountain bike? Gannett Hill. Okay, so we're going to call OCP. Have you been down to Hickory Ridge yet? Down the street from the top OCP, there is a newly built trail network that is sustainable, accessible, and some of machine built. So these are easygoing trails if you want them to be, and they're slightly more exciting. And it's had to be shut down at the discretion of people who built it due to weather. And the bike community has pretty much respected that and left it alone to the point where most people don't go there because they assume it's closed all the time. But there are sustainable trails that are built there. And it is adjacent, bike-friendly, hiking-friendly. And first off, everybody should go check it out at some point. It's pretty, it's kind of fun. So we've got a lot of people who ride bikes. We have a lot of people who mountain bike. OCP is almost an hour away from where we are right now. Have you ever been to Arundecoit Bay West or Tryon Park on a bike? What were your thoughts there? So Tryon would be fun because there's some gentle areas. There's also some stuff that isn't as gentle over there. One of my favorite parts about Tryon is that it is 5-10 minutes from downtown, and really in any direction there you can feel as if you're totally lost in the woods, which is cool if you're in the city. You know, you don't have to drive an hour away. You can hop off after work and go get 45 minutes in enjoying the trails and feel like a wrong turn is going to keep you there overnight, you know, lost in the woods style. The reality is that park is tiny, and in any direction you're going to hit a boundary pretty quickly. But it's nice and it's there. That park is exclusively developed and maintained by Grok, which is a mountain bike community, all volunteer style, and so is Bay West. So it's an interesting aspect that one of the most common things that we hear is, oh, mountain bikes are going to ruin the trails and all this, that, these, and those. We are also the same people building and maintaining those trails on a way regular basis. You talk about trail stewarding. Those are great. Yes. You guys are doing 10 miles with the FLT? How many people do you guys have to come out on average? That's pretty solid numbers, all considered. The mountain bike community enjoys doing trail work, and has for quite some time, but I'm worried we're seeing dwindling numbers because there's not as much accessibility to utilize a bike in more places. And so people are starting to dwindle on how much effort they put in. As an interesting note, my first trail building experience was in 1996. Would have been at Durand Eastman Park, actually. So at 13 years old or whatever, went with my dad and did trail work all day long. Nice Saturday. Yard work, that's how I saw it at the time. And at the end of the day, I had to ask why we weren't going to ride what we spent all day working on. And that was just because, oh, bikes aren't allowed. 13-year-old me could not figure out why that was the case. I'm just trying to ride a bike. Why can't I ride my bike there? Now, 1996 is also the year that mountain biking became an Olympic sport. So we're about to celebrate 30 years of it being an Olympic caliber sport, hobby, whatever you want to call it. But we treat it like garbage in a lot of other parts of the community. Who's got a problem with mountain bikes on the trail? I'll take hands up. This is an open forum. We seek to understand and we come from a place of respect. Who doesn't like seeing mountain bikes out and about? Do you want to come sit with me? With a chair? Yeah. Can I come to you? No, you can sit. You can sit. Okay.
I go to some of the Monroe County Parks meetings, which are few and far between. And the mountain biking group, Rock, has been trying to work with Monroe County to get more trails. And you're right, they're meeting some blockages. I'm probably part of that blockages because the I could barely walk in. So anyway, so I know Monroe County Parks is really working on this.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you at those particular meetings.
It's true.
I bet you are meeting with some of the park county people about this. But GROC has been there regularly.
Yep.
And so a few other people. I don't know if you want to stand up and join me. You've been there. But anyway, the parks meetings are a bit frustrating because it's almost like, well, we have to meet with the public, but we don't have to announce that we're having these meetings, so you don't get very many people.
Right. That's something that we've noticed as well, that a lot of this is like borderline behind closed doors, and some days it feels intentional.
Well, they're up against the arguments because they're trying to provide parks for lots of different kinds of people.
Yeah.
They've been working hard this year on getting accessible and put in some boat launches for people that are handicapped and need a canoe site where they can get into the canoe and push off. And other places, they've been making advances on that. And they have a limited budget.
Right.
The county only spends so much on parks. And that's it.
Yeah.
They've been repairing other cabins that people can rent. So only 5 parks of the 20 or 22 that are Monroe County allow horses to play on the trails. And I think you mentioned the ones that are access that are county parks.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get Lincoln and a couple of the others that are there close to Tyrone
Yeah.
in some way of combining them. And they want a 3-mile loop so they can actually bring in off-road bikers that have competitions. Now, that's saying be good for our community because it's good for our economy to bring an event like that in and then raise. They have that down in Ontario, near Naples.
Yes.
And they have some on the east side, I forget, Wayne County? So there are places that they can have longer off-road bikes and competition. Do we really need something?
So the question there is, do we need another mountain bike specific or mountain bike enabled park? Now, I'd also say that'd be cool if we had more places for horses, right?
No,
No? Okay. So would you say that Mendon is enough for horses on its own, Mendon Ponds?
Northampton, there are 5 parks that they're allowed in. I think Mendon.
Mendon's probably the most popular. It's the only place I've seen it. Have you walked through Lucian Morin at any point recently? Has anybody?
I tried, but it's sort of a dead end road and can't make it to the end.
Yeah.
There's a big swamp on one side.
That part can be a little bit challenging and hard to navigate overall. One of the curiosities that a bunch of us would have would be if there was a cycling access there, would we see better trail conditions? Because again, the mountain bike community is always ready to rock when it comes to building and maintaining trails. Not saying that any other community isn't, but there's such a fragmentation in the bike world that most people do things solo in a lot of cases. You know, oh, I ride on a Tuesday night, I ride on a Thursday in the middle of the day. But a lot of people will go and experience issues with stormfall, tree branches, things like that, and on their very next day, go back and clean it up.
When you say mountain bike, you mean on trail and going over small hills? Speaking on trail.
Here we go. So, right. Notable differences between these descriptions.
And on those trails too, people do ride horses too.
Yeah.
But they can see each other, they're not coming up on each other fast. One of them goes to the side.
Sure.
The person quietly goes by.
And I think trail etiquette is frequently
Now
ignored.
they're using some electric bikes.
That's one we could probably all get together on real quick there. So, e-bikes have their own place in the world from an accessibility perspective. Now, we all have like images in our head, but the reality is, I'll use one tidbit from work. One of my favorite couples, I'm going to give you the full story because it's entertaining. I'm not stereotyping, I'm telling a story. A grumpy old man comes in, and I like these guys because they've been around the block. But he says, I've got to get an e-bike, I don't want to. Okay, well, like, then why are you getting it? Oh, it's for my wife. Okay, I really hate, personally, when people are trying to buy a bike for a partner or whoever else when they're not there, because if you want to feel what that person wants, you want to make sure it fits well, you want to make sure there's all these things. But he's adamant that he knows what she needs. Fine. We talk about it. Do you want to ride it? No. Do you want anything? No. Blah, blah, blah. He buys the bike. Okay, it's fine, right? So e-bikes, also for this description, these are pedal assist bikes. These are bikes that don't do anything unless you are pedaling. So really all this is kind of like a magnifier of your own abilities. If you stop pedaling, it stops having any power. You can ride it without power. Like, it's not a motorcycle, there's no twist throttle, nothing like that. He leaves, it's fine. It is probably 2 weeks later, he comes back with the bike, and I see it coming in, and I'm like, oh, this is exactly why. He doesn't like the bike, he's having a problem, she's having a problem, whatever's going on. This is why we like to make sure people are present. She comes in with him. She's a happy camper. So he's now buying another e-bike, and I'm trying to wrap my head around why he didn't want the first one because he wanted the second one, and then it hits. He's 86, she's 92. They're doing 30 miles a day on the canal. He can't keep up on his regular bike anymore. She's going to leave him behind, and he's having so much fun that she's like, just get one. Just own it and get one. So the two of them, he very grumpily, don't get me wrong, they leave. But now they're riding between 20 and 35 miles a day because it's just the pedal assist. So they're out every day. They're having a good time. That's my image of e-bikes. But 2 weeks ago, I kicked 2 kids out of dry road who showed up on electric motocross bikes who thought that they could go rip around. It's like, no, guys, like this is not even remotely okay here. There's like a 4-year-old learning to ride his bike over on a trail over there. Like, you can't hit him with a motorcycle. That's not cool. So I'm aware that there's a lot of stigma about that, for sure. And that's one area where the mountain bike community heavily agrees that the mentality of an e-bike being an electric motorcycle, that's terrible. We don't want that. We don't want that in parks. Most of the parks you'll see have like a no e-bike sort of sign. If you ever really want the nuance, there's different classes. At the end of the day, the accessibility aspect is where things start to come back around. So there's a dentist, John Roncombe. If he was here right now, he would love that I'm talking about him. 20 plus years ago, he was riding high-end mountain bikes in his 60s, and I ran into him the other day, kind of doing all the things we hate. He's got a Bluetooth speaker on the front of his bike. It's an e-bike, and he's ripping around in the woods. But he's got to be able, and he's having a grand time. This isn't classic rock, which I don't even know what generation classic rock is nowadays, because what I listen to is technically that as well. So he's in the woods with his speaker, and I'm like, dude, come on, man, like, you're doing all the things everybody hates, but you got a really big grin on your face, and there's like nobody else here. Kind of can't hate on that. So sometimes it's like, we can give a pass if we understand where someone is coming from, but it's a slippery slope. And if you say something like, oh, we're going to allow e-bikes. Okay, well, how long is it until there's an electric motorcycle? What's the difference? There has to be some self-policing and some regulation there, for sure. But then we have people who are limited in mobility, people who may have not been limited in mobility and now are, and if an e-bike is the only way that they can get out and go enjoy the woods the way the rest of us enjoy the woods, that's not really a great standpoint against them. We worked with Rochester Accessible Adventures, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and their whole idea is to facilitate the enjoyment of the outdoors, even if you don't fit the physical norms of doing so. So, e-bikes, that's a thing. But when we talk about mountain bikes, most of the time we are talking about simple rolling trails. I mean, if you've been around at Bay Park West, there's very little, let's call it adventure in the trail system. Most of it is just smooth trails, walkable trails. Yes, there might be a few, they call them features now, where there's like a log pile or a steeper section or something like that. Jumps and stuff are a real questionable one. Dryer Road, if anybody's been out there to ride, has done a brilliant job at building trails that do that to allow people to have fun. And they're typically like one-way or directional trails. But most mountain biking stuff, for the demographics that we were talking about, is just a bike that can go on dirt and can go up and down the hills. Stigmas of Mountain Dew and people crashing into things, it's kind of like a bygone era in a sense.
Do people know what the Dryer Road is?
Where Dryer Road is? Yes, it's out in Victor, for anybody who isn't familiar. Is anyone? Not with, I don't think there's any corporate sponsorship on that level that I'm aware of. Dryer Road's been out there for 20 years, I think now. Yeah.
I live 2 miles from Dryer Road.
Yes.
And I was former member of the Parks and Rec Board of Mount Jersey Parking Trails. So the one thing that's different about the town of Victor is
So one thing that's different about the town of Victor
is every trail is multi-use.
every trail is multi-use. Yeah, so that's the cool part, right? So every trail in this park and throughout the town essentially is open for everybody. And not only is it a destination for the mountain bike crowd, but I would assume I can actually just defer to you. How many issues do you hear about that are real, challenging, and need resolution from negative interaction between the groups using the trails?
The only issue is the young boys on the e-moto bikes that has just happened since summer started.
Right, so essentially, Victor is a model for how not only can everybody share the trails, but you get a great labor force of volunteers who come out and want to make it as good as it can be, and even people like me who are visiting from the city, so to speak, but I associate pretty hardly there. Yes, we'll self-patrol, self-police, and try to keep it the way it should be. So, one of the popularities of Dry Road is that it's a great place to ride. It's a great place to go do anything. My wife trail runs, and so it's a cool concept that we can go to the same place and split off and meet back up. And it's great. That's just it. It's all positive. We have Tryon, we have Bay West. Mendon Ponds, from a mountain bike perspective, and I'm not even really pushing for that personally, which is where I'm kind of going for that. Mendon Ponds is probably nice for the area, pretty easy going. But even if it was open to bikes, I really don't think it would be suddenly flooded with them. It's not exactly a destination. It's nice. You'd probably find, who all raise their hands here before on mountain bikes. If Mendon Ponds was open for mountain bikes, I would imagine it would be folks who would be there. But you probably wouldn't see a ton of people from Dryer heading out to Mendon Ponds, because we have Dryer, because Mendon Ponds is not the same sort of park. So there is a self-policing aspect that would definitely occur, and we've seen it occur over the past 30 years, where people will respect the area if they respect the area, and those who don't typically don't go there. And it would still be up to us to ensure that. I definitely think that there should be separation from horses and bike stuff. Like there should definitely, that's a real world concern. Like you can't just commingle in that aspect. This is a bit of a diversion, but we walk through the woods. If we spook an animal, it's a similar thing. So we all understand that spooking something can be a real concern. As people hiking and enjoying nature, we don't intentionally go out looking to do that, but it does happen by default. So in a sense, even at the most base level, we are all sort of involved with some level of disturbance. And it's just our job to do the best to mitigate that impact. So the short kind of version of this is, there have been so many years where people have put an effort into trails and they've been up against a wall for this expansion. You mentioned like competition, for example, with linking the parks together. I don't think Dryer's hosted any sort of official competitive event in the park. Short stuff?
They just had one a couple weeks ago. It was Scott Page ran it.
Yeah.
So it's cyclocross.
That's why there's a loop up back, right? Cyclocross, now this is an interesting because this bridges the gap. Does anybody ride a road bike? I know we kind of did this already, but if you've ridden a road bike, do you like riding on pavement? Do you like traffic? Nobody likes traffic. nobody driving a car is paying attention. No one's looking for a bike. It's the worst. They're not looking for runners either. They're not looking for anybody. That is just a miserable experience. Anybody been hit by a car while on a bike? Katie? Gail? Me? You? Listen, nobody really wants to ride their bike on the road. They like pavement. We like pavement. That's fine. It's smooth. So, gravel bikes and cyclocross bikes are essentially road bikes with a slightly chunkier tire. You can ride them pretty much anywhere. That's what I would see a lot of people doing, transitioning from rail to trail stuff, FLT style things, trails that used to be rail beds, wide, flat. They just want someplace to put miles in that aren't in front of cars. And that's the sort of traffic that you can more than likely see at most of the parks that aren't in this scope. Lucian, Morin, Ellison, and a couple others, things like that. Those have potential in a mountain biker's eye because there's elevation changes, it's steep, it's kind of tough, but it would require labor in order to get that built. Bureaucratically, that would take absolutely forever if we were going to ask a municipality to do it, which is how Grok got involved and built so much stuff from the ground up. The concern that I have and the worry, the cautionary tale, if you will, here, I've been involved with this for like 30 years. So I started as someone's son with a dad doing trail work. That's cool. Become an adult, help develop the skills parking dryer. That's a whole separate conversation, to be honest, but heavily invested with that on my own. Now I'm a dad with kids, and my 5-year-old's like, "You're giving a talk tonight, what are you talking about?" I'm like, I'm kind of trying to tell people that it sometimes feels silly that you and I can't go ride our bikes wherever we want. Well, why not? I don't really know anymore. He's like, "Well, you ride in the woods," and I went with you that one time, and I'm like, "Yeah, but not everybody wants that." If you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, what's the pitch here? So, my worry is, my dad is now in his late 60s, early 70s, and he is not spending 6 to 10 hours out in the sun building trails. I have spent the past, like I said, 30 years, the entirety of Olympic mountain biking so far, helping build trails with the hope that someday we would all be able to share them in the way that I see sharing outdoor hobbies. It's not really going anywhere for a lot of this. And now what I'm worried for everyone, especially you, is you're going to lose a labor base as people just age out and don't come back. So you're down to 12 people, and I remember when Grok was pulling like 40 people on the weekends to clean parks out and do stuff. But that's a reality. People get busy, they don't feel supported, and my dad's like, "Oh, I'm too old for doing it, it's your turn." And I'm like, "Well, I've been doing it my whole life, and nobody cares that I'm out there doing it. So why would I help if I'm not respected for putting forth the effort?" And that's personal, right? But my worry is, as we move forward, what is the legacy, what is the support for the existing trail network if inadvertently you're ostracizing a younger demographic who would do anything to help protect the outdoors? So, in short, the concept should be embrace people who respect the outdoors, embrace people who want to share the outdoors, and let them come and help build your trails and keep them going. So that as we all get older, we can have paid some dues and sit back and enjoy things and continue to let people be healthy and happy in the outdoors. At the end of the day, that's all any of us really want, is just to be outside and to be happy and healthy. How we do it, that's got some variables, but respectfully is the main one. That's pretty much my concept there. So, I would absolutely take any questions or any specifics that anybody has. Yes?
Specifically, years ago we were hiking at Tryon.
Hiking at Tryon years ago.
Got pretty much thrown off the trail by bikers going by.
Thrown off the trail by bikes that went by?
Stopped hiking there.
Fair.
Ended up a couple years ago at Dryer. Loved the shared use.
Yep.
Went back to Tryon and it's much better.
Yes.
Bravo to you for that. However, we also are on the Penfield Trails Committee.
Yeah, Penfield Trails.
The idea of shared use has met with a lot of objections in
Yeah.
our community because there's people who are afraid when a bike goes by them.
Yep.
That are free to tread. There's erosion issues.
Yep.
Concerns. Additionally, there's concerns because there's a huge deer population in the park.
You ever been knocked off a deer or knocked off of a bike by a deer?
We've been
They're sneakier
5
than
feet,
you.
about 12 feet west.
Yeah. So we have concerns about erosion, we have deer population, and we have a lack of respect on the existing trails. So the irony to me and to what Dryer Road crew would all probably agree. Ironically, if you added the respectful mountain bike route, you'd probably stop all of it. But that goes against the concept, right? You're going to take the thing that you think is going to cause the problem and bring it into your environment, and that problem would get worse. But as we've seen at Dryer, as we've seen with the Monroe County Parks pilot program, the more people you can get on bikes into the woods, the more you have trail support, the more you have sustainable trail building, the more you have people using it who are trying to spread that respect and responsibility. And you always do get the bad apples, as we all talked about before. So the question is, does that location need a park? Does it need a place that people can share? Because if the answer is yes to sharing in any one capacity, it should probably be shared in all the capacities. And if you bring the bike route in, they'll probably make sure it stays in good shape, which that's a win-win in the long run. It may go against the kind of like the mindset at first to embrace the thing you're worried about. There are some things to try on, for example, when we talk about running into bikes. I always stop whenever I see somebody hiking, and we all have our own little things. For me, it's anybody who's walking a dog with one of those little skinny leashes and it's across the trail, and it's like literally a clothesline. It's terrible. And it really doesn't happen that often. And I like dogs, so I'll stop, ask your dog's name. I'll forget your name, don't worry about it, but I'll ask your dog's name. So that's the hard part in that neck of the woods right now, is that there is this stigma that it's going to be bad if we do it. But as we've seen in all the other places over the past, close on 20 years, well, right, for drivers for 21 years, I think. Pilot program is close to 20 years now. So, and all that stuff, as you experienced, was better once we allowed the bikes to go. And if you were there years ago, the chances are bikes were allowed. There's not as much organization and structure. There's less societal structure behind that. And so my theory would be, go for it, be on board with it, and watch it end up like another destination like Dryer, instead of it being a closed-off area that gets kind of abused over time. It's an opinion. It's an opinion. But factually, we've proven over 2 decades that it'll be better if you bring the bike crowd in. Something to consider. I'm gonna jump first. Let's see. Sarah, what you got?
So I have a thought that, no matter who's using the trail, it's really just leave no trace,
Yes.
Be respectful of others.
Core tenet of this is to,
So there's going to be bad apples in every group that are going to probably ruin it. So I am on the west side. Some of my parks aren't taken care of the way I feel that they should be taken care of. And you can only do so much.
Right.
And even somewhere like Mendon, which is basically just hiking traffic,
Yep.
has a lot of places that are really suffering right now.
it's a huge park as
And
well.
I think, they can't manage everything on their own. It would be great if someone like Brock came in
Right.
and put some effort into.
The same thing is being told about Ellison as well, that there's trails in various stages of flooding and disrepair all the time. And sure, the county or the group is going to take forever to organize a process, allocate a budget, get a team. One guy's got to stand around the whole time anyways, right? You could just call your bike friends, because they'll go build it. And we've got 30 years of sustainable trail building experience. So if the worst case scenario is we ask for a donation of materials, and we'll do the labor, okay, you're fine. And then, then the parks are back up. So that's exactly the sort of logic. And so the sooner everybody gets on board with that, the sooner you'll keep that labor pool rotating through the generation. You've got to be able to support, grandkids who are getting into sports, regular kids who are getting into sports, adults who are still in the sport. All of us are still in some level of a sport, hobby, or outdoor enthusiast scenario. There's no point letting that go to waste. Not within a couple generations. You got to run with it for a while. Okay.
Two-part question.
Yeah, 2-part question.
I think I know the answer to the first one, but what is the etiquette and what if you're a biker meet on the trail?
So you're going to want to yield to the And listen, in most cases, and really in any case, any respectable adult or youngin on a bike is just going to yield, right? There's nuance of up and down trails and all that stuff. We're just going to yield. That's just a nicer thing to do. You stop, you have a conversation. Hi, how are you? How's it? Are you enjoying it? Yeah, it's nice out because that's just what you do when you respect the outdoors and you're having a nice time and you're interacting with other people. There are a couple exceptions, and I've seen it still work that way. If you take Dry Road, you take Rufus, for example, which is a downhill-oriented trail. I've absolutely run into people walking up that on the down. Now, I've been able to come down from a high-speed, gravity-specific, like, this was a trail made for people to do fun, damaging bike things on the aggressive stuff, right? And someone's walking up, and now I'd be entirely within my right to, like, blast past somebody and be like, you shouldn't be here. Which is the same commentary I've had thrown at me while riding parks. But instead I've stopped and be like, hey, quite the climb. You'll notice there's some stuff going on here, but just as a heads up, this is blind on the downhill trail, so I'm stopping to let you know that, like, nobody wants to see anybody get hurt here. But this trail goes that way for safety, and you'll see some bike stuff. Most people are like, oh, I didn't know, because it's true. It's not well signed in a sense. Like, no, you're not going to see a flag or plates every 10 feet saying down only. But most people just don't know. And then they know. And then they're like, this is really cool. Is there a place where I can sit and watch? And the answer is one of the curbs on Jasper you can post up and literally just watch us all go down. If I sound like I'm speaking in code, there's a little trail there. Pretty cool. But that's the thing, like, we would yield. And the worst case scenario is if it is a technical section and two people do it, you watch people both go to the sides. The last time I was in Bay West on a steeper, not uncontrolled or anything, on a steeper section, they were running coming up and not coming down. And so you drop to the same speed, you match the speed. So if somebody's running and they're going 2 miles an hour, I also will drop to 2 miles an hour and like give a, hey, how are you? Person's wearing headphones, tuned out to the world, still yielding, still respectful, totally fine. People are going one of these and keep on going. And that's about it. What's part two?
Part two is for you. I'm just curious, what is the secret to success of you do some trail people initiatives? I think it's the local government and having the Parks and Recreation Department. So when Dry Road was built by volunteers, the head of the Parks and Rec Department is also a volunteer.
Yeah. Was that Emerson at the time? Yeah.
So they went to the town with a plan, and then the other really active group was Victor and Victor hiking trails. So Brian Ellison also went to the head of Victor hiking trails and said, well, I think all the trails in the town should be open to bicycles. And the hiking people said, yeah, why not? Why would we try to keep people off trails?
That's the positive mentality. So the concept there, for anybody who didn't hear it, is when Dryer got started, the Parks and Rec Department was headed by somebody who liked mountain bikes. And they just got friendly with the hiking department. They said, why can't we share? And everybody said, yeah, why can't we share? And then you have a bunch of volunteers who come out and make everything happen. And now it's this wonderful coexisting place.
So there's another park in Monroe County where this is happening. And it's Whiting Road.
Yeah, Webster.
And the one next to it.
Yep.
So when they expanded the one next to it, Herman Road, it's a shared use trail. So I think it's an education that's slowly happening, but the town has to be willing.
Yeah, and the town listens a lot to the people who come to these meetings and talk about, which is why we're all here now, in a sense, talking about it. Whiting Road is also an interesting one because I find that might be a slightly abused area when it's wet. But I also hear about people hiking in there while it's muddy as well. So sometimes, again, you got to put in some trail work. And even then, we're not out to ruin anything. Nobody's out to ruin anything. But as long as you're cleaning up or doing some due diligence, sometimes that can be okay. But education is always key. So I know we're running late here, right? What time are we? 8:30. So education's key. This one's got a question. What you got?
No, it's not really a question. It's a comment about numbers.
Yes.
So I hike in I hike in the county parks a lot.
Yes.
And I've never had a problem with mountain bikers. They're always respectful. It's fine. I love the bridge you guys built on the north side of Tryon. That sort of lets me access because I do a little loop from Lucian Moore to Tryon back and forth. But the trails in Tryon are very packed out from all the bikers. Very different than a nice, soft forest hiking trail that only has boots. And so that, I think, is a potential problem with shared use. is that the trails they change, right? The characteristics
absolutely.
change.
Yeah.
And so it changes the experience you have as a hiker, you know, walking on sort of soft ground, and so it does. So it's the numbers, right? So I don't know what the
it's the same issue
are.
for mountain bikes in that exact same scenario. So just to bring this around, heavier use, compact soil, and you end up with either a concrete-like feel, which then means dust. There's no joke about drier road. Lots of dust. This sounds like contradictory, but one of my favorite times to ride dryer is just after a rain because there's no mud. Nothing sticks. The dirt feels good, and it's not quite as packed. Tryon is packed, but that's also part of its hardiness in a sense. It's why so many of those trails can stay the way they are for us because they are well burned in and can be maintained. That being said, the only real answer that I'm aware of for that is opening and closing multiple trails concurrently. So you shut down one trail to let it come back, and you build another one, and then that's soft until it packs down, and you alternate back and forth. But that requires trail planning, labor, and people to get on board. We see that at Dryer right now. The den is closed. I don't think it's opening up this fall. But then
Next week, you can go work on it.
there we go. So,
Nice.
but Gully opened, and that's quickly burning in. So there's a lot of this where we would have to do that more. And that kind of comes back to those specific parks like Tryon and Bay West are handled by primarily stewardship by Croc. So you would find more people willing to do that if we're going to shut down a bunch of trails in Tryon. It's cool that we've added Lucian Morin into the mix. We're going to build those trails and you guys get a fresh experience. We'll build the trails essentially. You get a fresh experience. We get a fresh experience. The other trails go back, then we revisit Tryon with a slightly new view. The place never gets old. It's a tiny little place, but man, I've been around there for I don't even know how long, and the reality is it can be as much of an experience as you want it to be. So we need to pass that legacy on to the next group of people as well. So when my kids hit 15, 16, and they want to go build trails someplace and do something, they learn how to do it sustainably and respectfully, and it allows everybody to have fresh new trail vibes until we have to recycle stuff. It's the only way that one really works that I'm aware of. So, but yes, it is by the numbers. The more traffic you have in the dense area, the faster it goes like that. Spreading it around can be an easy way to slow that process down as well. Who else has that? Anybody else? Wow. All right. Well, what is everybody doing or looking for? Well, is everybody looking forward to the slightly cooler weather for what it's worth? As a quick note, the bike community as a whole starts to ramp up now because nobody loves being out in like 100-degree weather all day on a bike breaking sweat. So if you see your two-wheeled friends out in the woods, say hi. They'll say hi back. If you're bored and want to stop and talk, they'll absolutely talk, as you can see. But keep it in mind that the future of all the trails here would all benefit from incorporating the mountain bike folk all the way back in. So they like to put in the work, and they like to be out there, and they want to be responsible and really kind of help everybody do it. And that benefits everybody, so that everybody can enjoy the outdoors.
Okay, how about that?
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, that concludes our program. Thanks everybody for coming. I hope to see you either on the 24th at the Little Theater for the showing of the 46ers or at our next chapter meeting in October. Have a good evening, everybody.